Hello, I wanted to share a little bit about the cabinet project that I've been working on. The kitchen cabinet is one of the most important elements of your cabinetry in a camper van project, and so wanted to highlight a few of those features that I've done with this project. I've built 3 or 4 of these cabinets so far, and each one benefits from the things I learned from the previous projects. Sportsmobile company, they use these Southco latches that I've found to be helpful. They latch easily, just as a natural part of closing and opening the doors, and I think that action of doing it basically in one motion, opening and closing your doors without having to worry about your latches latching, is pretty important. It's kind of disastrous when you go around a corner, especially making a hard left turn. The drawers will slide out, and it's a problem. So these latches help correct that issue. In the van life world, there is lots of discussion about the various types of refrigerators that folks can use, and a lot of people are very interested in using the chest style freezer, and certainly there's some efficiency there. In a lot of ways they are the most efficient, but as long as you have a good 12-volt compressor, the Danfoss compressor is one of those that does really well at cooling and yet not using too much energy. And so I especially prefer the front-loading refrigerator, especially if it's big enough that you can put in all the storage that's needed for your refrigerator. It's good to have a thermometer, and but the ability to set things in, especially like these right here, you can hold an immense amount of things in door holders that are like this big, as well as the rest. I'm typically surprised at how much I can put in this refrigerator right before we get ready to go on a trip, and have plenty of storage space. And so, but the main advantage is that whole idea of accessing it easily and not having to dig down through various layers, as well as the ability to put it in a convenient place in your cabinet and have minimal issues as far as pulling out a big drawer and getting to things. For most of the vans that I've built, I've used a propane heater. So this is vented to the outside. It's a standard suburban RV furnace and works well at all elevations. So sea level all the way up to the highest mountains, essentially. These propane furnaces work fine. Very few of the Wabasco style or Chinese diesel heaters are consistently reliable at all elevations and often have issues with carboning up. And so in general, that's why I've leaned towards a tried and true heater that is attached to your propane system and can be relied upon consistently to keep your van warm. This one has been tested. I've had it down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and so it's fairly impressive. You can keep your vehicle warm at that temperature or any lower for that matter. In your kitchen cabinet, you want various sizes of your drawers. So some are smaller and more narrow, like would be appropriate for silverware, that type of thing. But then also something that's quite large, because then you can adjust to the different items that you keep in your kitchen area. Like in this case, I made it big enough so I could put an air fryer in here or something like that that's a little bit larger, but you want it in your kitchen area rather than stored back in your garage. Underneath the sink, I have a 22-gallon over-the-wheel well freshwater tank that then would feed into this system. The faucet has a built-in switch that triggers the pump that's stored. It's actually inside the tank, so it's a very quiet pump. It's only needed when you flip the switch on and provides the water at that point. So that's the only time that the system is under pressure. And I really like the simplicity of that, whereas a lot of plumbing that's done in van projects is under almost 100% of the time. There's pressure on those lines, and it's an area that often can develop problems. You want a fairly good sized sink, and so I've gone with, this is I think a 13 by 14 sink, but you have to be real careful because then you can get one that's too big and it doesn't work with your cabinets. And then underneath here I have water jugs that are the gray water system, and I especially like these 4 gallons, so I can fit 2 4-gallon tanks underneath. And so when the time comes to dumping these, if you drain all your gray water into a tank that's underneath your van, then you really can only empty it in approved dumping stations at RV sites. And there's a lot of times where you may not be close to a dumping station or a legitimate place to dump, whereas these kinds of tanks can really be dumped anywhere. It's like similar to just tossing out your gray water. A lot of Forest Service campsites they don't have a true dumping station, but it would be totally appropriate to dump these. So anyway, and a 4-gallon is light enough that it's not hard to carry, it's easy to do, and so essentially these 2 were mounted down here. And then in addition, I have a light in back that when you open this door, there's a micro switch right here that turns on the light, and it shines through the tanks so that it's a constant reminder of how much water you have there. There's a lot of extra storage space. So in the back area under here, you could put a couple, 3 paper towels and some extra toilet paper, and so good use of that. And then in the front, this I need to get a slightly smaller garbage can, but every van has to have a good garbage can, and you want it kind of in the most convenient place, and underneath the sink is a common spot for that. And so the garbage can here, and then I'm also going to mount a toilet paper holder right here, so it's just right inside the door when it's closed. Cabinet grade plywood, and then every portion is glued and screwed. I use Tight Bond 2 adhesive, and then the very top I've done a plywood top rather than say marble or other kinds of live edge, or you name it, partly because I really like the ability to put the top on and then screw directly down through the plywood to all the different sections of the plywood, and then do the vinyl, the Formica laminate on top. And I think that creates a stronger connection, as well as there will be half-inch bolts like this that will go through the floor of the cabinet and then through the floor of the van and anchored on the bottom there to help keep everything secured, so in the event of a crash or a sudden stop, nothing is going to move. I think that's all for today. Thank you for listening to CampMaker.com.